So welcome, and we're here with Anel,
Hello.
artist, writer, real estate, amazing person.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are here because as you know, we're talking everything mask, how masculinity presents in our life, and we wanted to talk about style. I think style is a big way in which people can really embrace their masculinity in a kind of fun way.
Mhm.
So I wanted to talk to you because you look at her, please. Look
Thank
at it
you.
now and tell me that they don't look amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, I had to interview you because I really want to learn a little bit about your style. We saw some of your pieces, some of
Mhm.
your amazing pieces that you're allowing us to talk through right now.
Yeah.
So let's go and dig in some of the pieces that you love. Gravitated towards the Dog Martens
Yes.
immediately. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I at 17, I
Can I
didn't.
pick them
Yeah,
up?
absolutely, absolutely pick them up. So the docs are really important to me and really special
Yeah.
because in a narrative way, I was outed at 17 as a queer
Mm-hmm.
person. I didn't talk to my parents or my family. They stopped buying clothes like shoes for me because they were too toscas.
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, eso es no, porque they're too tosca, too masculine.
Yes.
So at 18, I was working at the Gap. I was working my at downtown. I was in college, and my first paycheck, the first saving my money, I bought black docs.
Oh my
I'm
God.
sorry, not black docs, blue docs, navy blue
Uh
docs. And then I wore those for 20 something years, and then of course my foot grew as I got older. But so I bought these docs. I bought a turquoise doc, one of my favorite colors in the world. To me, this is it really says who I am. For me, my clothes, I start with shoes. Like if I'm
Yeah.
going to go somewhere, I'm like, what shoes need to carry me to safety, basically?
Yeah.
What shoes are going to carry me to
To the
tell the
situation.
story, to the situation? If I need to run, if I need to dance, if I need to play, if I need to
Yeah.
hike, right? If I'm painting, what am I wearing? But the shoe has an attitude. It carries me. It was the first way that I really used my masculinity
Yeah.
outwardly was in my docs. So
That is an amazing story.
thank you.
Being 17 and just kind of is that when you think you probably when that mask style started to present in your life?
Yeah.
Was it around those times?
I mean, actually, since childhood, I
Yeah.
think my whole, I mean, right now, as identifying as a trans person and also
Mm-hmm.
coming out as a trans non-binary person later in my 40s,
Mm-hmm.
that's a real, I mean, it's a process. As a
Yeah.
queer body, I know probably at 1 year old, I was already acting in mask
Mm-hmm.
spaces, right? I was running around like I didn't want to wear when my mom was at work and I was playing outside, I could take my shirt off and play in the grass and I didn't care. My sister was like, yeah, run around like a little boy. It wasn't a big deal. But once they heard my parents were coming or they could hear the car, they're like, put your shirt on. They're going to be mad at you. I'm like, okay, act like a girl, kind of like what we would do. And so, I was also indoctrinated in this in that patriarchy,
Yeah.
right? And so that was my process as a mask person. But I always identified as mask. It's just been a process, but a place of also real nostalgia,
Yeah.
because everything I took out, I had a feeling, I had an emotion, I had a desire, like everything even on me right now. Like the shirt says pretty handsome, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's I love my pretty.
Yeah.
I love my pretty and I love my handsome. I love my feminine divine. That energy is really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
But my body carries in mask, right?
Yeah.
And it's intentional. And everything, the obsidian is intentional. The silver piece is a protection piece. It's all it's all important. And it's also part of queer styling is also part of queer survival.
Yeah.
Right. And also it's a practice. It's custom. It's tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And everything here too. I could say the boots are 100% down from the lineage of would be my father's side, right?
Yes.
My father as a norteño, my father on the border, my father in the rancho. I put this on and I'm like, I want to wear the kindness,
Mm-hmm.
the sweetness, the sweet masculinity of my father.
Yes.
In these boots, I wear the sweet masculinity of my father.
I feel like a lot of the time we just associate masculinity with the harsh side of masculinity, what patriarchy has taught us about masculinity.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we want to kind of talk about in this issue, the macho
Yeah.
issue. So
So,
please submit to the macho issue.
yes, yes.
Is what parts of masculinity have not been explored just because we are kind of like hurt by how patriarchy has presented
Yeah,
masculinity.
yeah.
And like you like tell like the softness of your dad. Like
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people like feel identified with like either with their dad or with their grandpa,
yeah,
and it's the softer sides of them
yeah.
rather than like the strictness and like the harshness that like a lot of people relate to masculinity.
Absolutely, absolutely. That, and my dad is a, grew up on the rancho, and he's has a matrilineal or mother family,
Yeah.
right? So mother, grandmother. The Stacys, these are my wedding shoes. And these are inspired by Guadalupe Holguin, Maricela Holguin's father, who we just lost a couple
Mm-hmm.
months ago. But Guadalupe Holguin was one of like my father in
Yeah.
my queer world. So when I left home, um, and met Maricela and her family, he became my other father, the
Mm-hmm.
father that I could talk to about my queer things. So he wore Stacy's religiously. He showed up in his fedora, in his Stacy's, dressed to the nines, and taught me how to dress. And this also is like a major shout out to the Pachucas, the
Yeah.
Pachuques, the Pachucos, the suiters, the political action
Yeah.
that happened during the Chicano movement and continues to happen today. So when I put my Stacy's on, I'm like, I'm ready to make some change.
Yeah.
I wear this when I'm like reading, when I'm going, to do an art
Yeah.
exhibition. I walk with that space of like, I'm walking with my ancestors. So
Yeah.
that's the Stacys. It's like, it's always that masculinity that was part of making change. Right?
Yeah.
And also, again, in a gentle way. I know there's toxic masculinity everywhere, in the queer community, the straight, everywhere.
Everywhere.
And there are moments of gentleness. So that's what I try to pull out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely like finding all those like father figures along the way that kind of like help you get
Yeah.
through it. Like especially someone as special as Mr.
Oh
Holguin,
yeah, absolutely.
which
Yeah.
what a great example of like masculinity that is supportive and loving and like
Yeah.
he's present in the room.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I never didn't want to even show up unless I was dressed up with that
Yes.
man, And then of course, well, I mean, my
chanclas.
my chanclas, my Birkenstocks are like an honoring of my lesbian identity, right?
Yeah.
I identified as a lesbian for almost 30 years. I still honor my lesbian identity like so much, and my feminine identity. And so it's like, it's a joke in a way. I mean, everyone wears Birkenstocks, but I'm like, yes, always got to take care of these feet. I got to be happy. So, there's, the smart lesbian wears the Birkenstocks. I'm just kidding. It's all stereotype, but it's all real,
I remember, I don't remember somebody was talking about like how stereotypes can actually get you to make a statement and make people look.
Yeah.
And then once you have their attention, that's when you drag them in with your story and like make them like really look at the story.
Yeah.
I think it was Riz Ahmed who was talking about like doing a role where he was playing a cab driver and like as an Asian American man, like a cab driver is like a very stereotypical thing. But it's very true that like the stereotypes can just like drag you to pay the attention and then like, let me really tell you the story.
Yeah, let me really tell you the story. Absolutely. And part of that story too is like, they're part of another reason why we as queer bodies dress in certain specific ways is something that was called historically as flagging. I don't know if you know flagging, which you probably do, but that's like the panuelo, right? And in the queer culture, having a panuelo like hanging from your pocket is a message. The message could be, I'm polyamorous. It could be, I'm single. It could be, I'm in relationship. It could be, I'm a top, I'm a bottom, I'm a butch. And so part of like, but it's the messaging to other queer people when when you're trying to protect, like you don't want everyone to know you're queer, but you just want to be able to know that one person across the room knows you're queer.
Yeah, and it's a way to create a space between people.
Yeah, when you're in these other environments, when you're in these environments where you're like, I don't know, so I'm like, I got to dress like hella queer because that one little queer kid at this event, or I need someone out there, like I know you asked at some point who inspired you, and it's like at 19 I met Maria Salazar, these great butches like Emma Perez, the author. I'm like, oh, hello, like, yes, I want to be like you one day, Maria Salazar. I mean, there's so many gorgeous butches out there. Sharon Bridgeforth, also a writer and teacher. Ansalua was like so great in her jeans, you know, all
Talking
these
about
things.
Alonso.
Oh yeah, Ansalua, talking about Ansalua. Absolutely, yes. Another one of my very important pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very important pieces.
And definitely an icon
Mm-hmm.
for people who do not want to like be femme presenting,
Yeah,
but still
absolutely.
find that balance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Living
Yeah.
in and like living in between like those edges.
Yes, yeah. Living in like the masculine. I mean, look. I mean, her earrings. Look at her. She's so
Yeah.
gorgeous, so soft, so sweet, and absolutely mask. You know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know what Ansalua would say today if she was with us, right? But we can imagine
Mm-hmm.
with so many options, so many ways of being. You know,
Yeah, and how
just,
with her style, she like made it safe for other people to just
yeah,
exist in their own reality, in their own identity,
yeah.
which is very, very. It's also very like you said, a style. It's a way of communicating and communicating who we are and communicating what we like, how we want to relate to other people.
Yeah.
And style is like a very easy way to just kind of like, okay, this is who I am. Take it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Judge the book by its cover if you might, but like also, like I said, creating that safe space for other people to like, oh, I know this person. I can talk to them about this.
Yeah, absolutely. When I went to Ansaldua's, what was it? They were doing an unveiling of a literary landmark at UT Pan Am down in the valley in Brownsville. And so I was I read for that event, and I was doing, you know, just presenting at that event for the unveiling of her literary landmark, and her whole family was there, and like family from Hargill, where she's from, and there are stories about like, was she comfortable being out? Was there homophobia? You know, there's always, you just don't know, right? But at the end of the day, they were all there for the unveiling. And that morning, we were by her graveside, and everyone was arriving for the ceremony. And I was at the graveside with a couple other folks, and I was dressed like with my fedora, and I was wearing a blue button down, blue pants, and my botas. And I'm, you know, in the middle of the rancho, right? Like right there, Ansalua's grave was there, Hargill. And the whole family starts coming for the ceremony, and they're standing around the grave. And then I get introduced to her like sister and niece and things. And then later on that day, I had a talk, and then I hung out with the family. And I think it was the sister came up to me, and she was like, "We all saw you from the car, and we thought you were Gloria."
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And I died.
I
was like, I died. It was like me and Alexandra Salazar. She was with me. She does the podcast, Jotex y Recuerdos podcast. She was there, and she was like, "Oh my God, that's the craziest thing ever." I'm like, "Oh my God, I want to cry." We were both just like, "This is so beautiful." But you know, that's that. I was holding her space, right?
Yeah.
That masculine space for her.
Yeah, and like so many beautiful things that you have. Like you're wearing a hat, and this other hat kind of have like the same style.
Yes, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about these hats.
Yeah, so these are huichol, right? So these are the huichol imagery, the peyote, the deer, the jaguar, right? Am I wearing the jaguar? And you know, for me, again, it's like also I put this on as a shield, right? It's part of my protection. It's part of how I want to be, how I want to carry myself in the world. Remind myself of my gentleness, remind myself of my magic, and also who I am as like a first generation Mexican American person, right? My family's from Mexico, what I identify as, what runs in my blood, and just always making sure that I'm not only communicating to queer, but to queer Mexican folks, queer brown folks, queer black folks, queer indigenous folks. Like I'm here.
Yeah.
And we're not erasing things. So I just very intentional for energy inward and also outward.
Yeah, definitely.
Super special.
And then like maybe some of these items kind of like signifying the same.
Yeah, protection work. So I have a mala. I'm Buddhist, and I do a lot of meditation. So I use my mala for meditation. This is a piece of medicine made by Rose Two Feathers, made for me specifically to wear as protection. So these are other pieces, you know, as a queer person. This was made by Alexandra Salazar from Jotex y Recuerdos podcast. So I wear this a lot, just like as I wear it to readings and things. It's also extremely important. But intentional that what I wear also is made by queer hands.
Yeah.
Right? And that carries that energy that with me. These are like amulets in a way. You know?
And tell us a little bit about wearing something like this. Like I'm wearing something that says Panocha, and like I get a lot of comments about it.
Yeah.
And the different words to kind of like communicate your style? I know there's like
Yeah.
a lot of people like use so many ones, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like, how do I reappropriate some of them, like jota?
Yeah, like Jota, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
this one for me, because again, I mean, I'm an old queer, right? I mean, not old, but I'm older, right? I mean, I've
Yeah.
been queer for 30 years out, I guess. And so, yeah, I've gone through all of it. I've gone through, I love all the words. I'm also
Yeah.
like a writer. So I'm like, I love to be a Jota and a Jote and a Jotex. I love playing with sounds and words and who we
Yeah.
are. And as a queer person, I can. As a
Yeah.
queer person, I'm like, I'm going to keep on practicing. And when I wear it, I'm like, yeah, I know that it is appropriate. The X is like, okay, we know that this is more trans identity. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, I think it was used so much across the
Yeah.
globe. And then there was criticism about like, okay, everybody's just taking it without knowing its origin or
Yeah.
what it's about. So for me, it's keeping language, keeping the legacy. If I don't identify necessarily with this word or with this every day, even though I do, but if I didn't for some reason, let's say it said lesbiana and I
Mm-hmm.
identify as a trans non-binary person, I would still wear it.
Yeah.
Because in my world, the lesbiana is extremely important. The panocha is extremely
Yeah.
important. It is like,
Yes.
all day long, So I'm like, for me, it's like, what can we say outwardly, which is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? What we're doing with all this art.
Yes,
Right?
and it's a way of
Yeah.
like reappropriating that those words to empower us instead of like bring us down.
Yeah, exactly. Empower us completely.
Hats.
I know, hats. Just more ode to who I am and where I'm from, as a
Yeah.
Tejana too. And as a border person, as a border, just living here in the borderlands, being from a Norteño family.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of who I am. So I wear it proudly. It is just a beautiful hat. It reminds me of my dad and my tios and all my
Yes.
family. So
I think one of the things that we were kind of like talking about is like who are like your fashion icons.
my fashion icons, I would have to say, one of them would be, I mean, for sure, Guadalupe Holguin.
Yeah.
For sure. Um, I mean, I can't necessarily say my dad or anything, but like, I mean, there's so many people. Guadalupe Holguin, I mean, some high femmes, like my wife. I mean, she's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a fashion icon. Erika is like all day long,
Yeah.
everything about it. And
It forces you to like, I need to look good.
I gotta look good because she's gonna be dressed up all the time. Yeah. Oh God, fashion icons. I had some others in my mind, and I like just like, why can't I remember? God, I don't know. I really don't even. I can't think of
Yeah.
it. But definitely Mr. Holguin. I mean, I think of him constantly when I'm dressing, when I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking.
And I can definitely see him wearing something like this.
Oh yeah, for sure. We always compared hats. We compared Stacy's
Yes.
all the time. Yeah, yeah. I love that.
And also like you say, like fashion is a way to just honor your ancestors as well.
Yeah,
And not only ancestors, but people significant in your life.
yeah,
Which I think sometimes people think of style and fashion as something like superfluous, but when there's so many layers to like
yeah,
who we are,
yeah.
fashion and style become really important of like what we try like or what our statement as individuals is.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that you do that beautifully.
Thank you. And actually, like back to the question of who's my style icon, because I did think about it obviously
Mhm.
earlier. It's that I was thinking of Mr. Holguin, but I couldn't really have an answer of a person.
Mhm.
But what it is for me is like those that I admire are, I'm from the Valley. I mean, I'm from the border. So I admire all of us on the border because we dress fucking great.
Yes.
And it does like, it could be a pattern and a stripe and a hat and a feather and then some sequins. And we're like, I'm doing this at HEB. You know what I mean?
Yes.
My fashion icon is just all of us as artists, like wearing all of our colors, wearing the, the shirt that's made out of your grandmother's bata. Like I have one. I actually have a shirt made of my grandmother's bata, so it's like, it's the people who are wearing clothes and they're intentional.
Mm-hmm. I think the intention, and talking about like grandmas.
Yeah, grandmothers, the rebozo, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, the rebozo. This is from Oaxaca, so it's natural fibers and natural dye. It's the palo de águila. So for me, again, everything's intentional. It's a protection piece, but also it takes me back to that softness of femininity, right? The rebozo is like a symbol of also holding like of grandmothers, right? Of mothers, of that kind of femininity. But for me, right?
Yes.
I got this in Oaxaca this past year, and I was on my own. I was by myself, so Erika wasn't with me, and I was asking folks, like I wanted a rebozo, but I didn't know like how to wear it. And I was also thinking, how do I ask? I don't know the climate in certain spaces.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know, like I want a masculine looking rebozo. I want it to look, I want to be able to wear it like that. So I kind of was hesitant. And then I got to the first place I went, of course, I walked in and I was like looking at the rebozos, and a man came up to me, an older guy, like maybe 65 or so. And I thought, oh God, what is he going to do? Is he going to put it on me like a girl, right? Or like a woman?
Yeah.
What is he going to do? And right away he took the rebozo down and he just was like, no, we wear it like this. He told me in Spanish. He was like, así lo hace. And he did it masculine.
Yes.
Right away. I mean, I didn't have, of course, I don't know. My brain is like, we're always on a defense, right? Because there is a lot of homophobia.
Yeah.
But I had zero in Oaxaca when I was looking for more masculine clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was just like about it. He's like, no, like this. No, that's too. And he was like doing it right and wear it over your shoulder or do it, tie it like this and turn it around. He was just so great.
Oh, that's so
beautiful. Yeah, I had a beautiful experience with that. And I was able to kind of let that go. You know, triggers.
Which I think that also, it also speaks about like how indigenous clothing was genderless. Yes. Like in nature.
Yeah.
It was more about the functionality of it.
Yes.
Like rebozos are like to like carry the chamacos on your back, but you can also use it for so many other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So definitely, yes. Like it tells a story deeper than what you expect an item of clothing would say.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it really does. Oh, I love that.
I love it. So we are getting close to an ending. Okay. I wanted to just kind of like talk a little bit more, like now that we talk a little bit about the style, but like your influences and how like and how you carry yourself out there. I want you to tell us a little bit more about like what would you want people to really understand about people who choose to present masculine. I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions sometimes, especially within the queer community and outside the queer community of like mass presenting women or mass presenting non-binary people.
Right. I mean, I think that's a big, huge question that there isn't one answer for. And that is because for me, there isn't one type of, there is no one alike person. Right. And so I don't think there's one right answer. I think that the right answer is going to be for everyone. And I would say, you know, part of presenting and for some of us, it's not a choice necessarily to present mask. It's like, my body hurts in certain clothing. I mean, that's a real reaction to certain fabrics or certain like things where my breasts show like I don't feel comfortable, right? Those are things you kind of come to as you come to yourself and who you are. So I don't feel like necessarily it's always a choice, and it is also a choice where you're saying I'm ready to do this, or I've been told I'm not allowed to, or I've been trapped in a way that I'm supposed to dress, which is what happened to me. It's like, who am I pleasing here? Am I trying to keep my mother from freaking out? Am I trying to not be stereotyped by the parents of my students? Am I trying to not be, you know, I don't want like homophobia to be like, I don't want to be violated. I don't want to be hurt. So, I mean, there's so many things, like you keep yourself from being masculine at some point. And then at some point you're like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. Like I am not this person that everyone has painted a picture of for. I'm not like the teacher. I'm not the, I'm not the like upstanding. I don't look like a lady. I'm not going to like do this certain thing. And so at some point it is just who you are, and everybody's going to be, and everyone is going to flow into what their body, and as we're listening also to like energy, I think we're also so much closer, like young people now are, I think are getting closer again to their groundedness. Yeah. And like more connected to all the elements. And I'm so grateful that that's also happening. I think there's so much with generations and who did what and what's been happening. And here in this, where we are at this present place, in this location of space, this occupied land, where at least, I think young people are really getting more in tune with like understanding and learning. Finally, the message has been sent that indigenous practice, that this was not a thing. We are all gender. We all can possess and feel and energize with the feminine and the masculine and the non-binary. Yeah. So I think that that's also really beautiful. Just
Yeah,
figuring
like
it
just exist on the
Accept it.
fluidity of it.
Yeah, exist in the fluidity or
And,
not.
Yeah.
Exist in the fluidity or be binary. Like
Yeah.
whatever, but understand that not everyone, no one is like
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
You know, like,
And that's what makes us just so beautiful.
yeah,
It's like, how would this beautiful tapestry of all of us, it wouldn't be complete without you, it wouldn't be complete without me.
yeah.
It wouldn't be complete with everybody just putting a little bit of their own style in
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Yeah, and we need color.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's basically all I wanted to say. Thank you for inviting us into your space. I hope like people really find it interesting. I know that many people are probably still kind of like wondering what their style is, what their like gender identity, how they want to present. So definitely presenting somebody like you and through your style and the stories behind it and the intention behind this. I think that can help a lot of people just kind of like feel more comfortable in their own style.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, style is about like how I'm going to feel in the world.
Yeah.
Not like how people are going to perceive me. I think there's like a moment where you're like, okay, I'm going to dress because I want this, not because they're going to perceive me in a specific way. That's the hard part, I think, but I love it. So thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. I love to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.